At the time of recording, an agreement is being finalised. It could come today or within the next 24 hours. So the real link within the Premier League is Man City. And it's fascinating. At the moment, Spurs are kind of ahead, but they will be cautious.
Hello and welcome to The Window, talkSPORT's daily YouTube show, bringing you everything you need to know from a very busy transfer season. Done deals, rumours, we've got it all here. And today I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Ben Jacobs, transfer guru. Ben, let's kick off with Liverpool because so many players seem to be linked with them at the moment. Alexander Isak, Mark Guéhi, and just recently Giovanni Leone. What can you tell us about those three potential deals?
Yeah, so Leone, the young Parma defender, is set to join Liverpool, as we revealed exclusively this morning on talkSPORT. At the time of recording, an agreement is being finalised. It could come today or within the next 24 hours. And I'm told the final fee will be between 25 and 30 million pounds. Leone has already agreed terms. And this is a monstrous defender. I mean, he's about 6'5" and he's only 18, so he'll still be growing. Very good with physical duels, but also quite a lot of finesse with his feet too. So a modern ball-playing centre-back who's big and physical. And Liverpool's perspective is that he might even be Premier League ready to play some kind of role this season rather than having to delay and work out a different pathway. There were some suggestions he might go back to Italy, for example. I think that unlikely, although of course if Mark Guéhi arrives, then Liverpool will have to understand the kind of minutes that Leone can get. But Leone looking very positive, and my expectation is that this one will be a done deal imminently. Mark Guéhi is a bit different because even though Liverpool have got a very strong relationship with Crystal Palace, and even though terms will not be an issue with Guéhi, Liverpool know that the player's thinking about the World Cup too. And with Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahima Konate at the football club, Guéhi has to think about whether a move to Liverpool specifically this season is going to give him the best possible chance of not just going to the World Cup, but starting. And he'll have to think of it two ways. At Palace, he can play 38 Premier League games, whereas at Liverpool, he'll get Champions League experience. And the player's still deciding, I'm told, at the time we are live anyway. And once Liverpool have got a clearer indication of his position, they'll start to understand whether Leone and Guéhi are feasible or just Leone. And then, of course, with Alexander Isak, it's the same situation. Liverpool are not inclined to bid unless they're given encouragement from Newcastle. That encouragement only likely to come once Newcastle United have actually got in attackers. Yoane Wissa, we might see some progress this week. Nicholas Jackson is a possibility. They like Ollie Watkins, but Aston Villa don't want to sell. Samu at Porto is another option too. But it's fascinating because there's so much politics. Liverpool are backing off and saying we're waiting for Newcastle because they only want to bid now with confidence it's going to get done. Otherwise, they'll keep a safe distance. Newcastle are indicating that they may not sell, and they've given Isak a squad number. Isak is saying he'll never play for the club again, even if the window closes and he's still a Newcastle United player. And you sense, once a clearer direction of travel is apparent, that everyone's position will shift, because Newcastle can't be so firm in excluding Isak if the window shuts and he's still their player. Isak has the World Cup to think about, so can he genuinely go on strike? And then from Liverpool's point of view, if they're able to get Alexander Isak, you sort of feel that there'll be a rewriting between Isak and Newcastle, because now it feels acrimonious. But if he leaves the football club, then it's very common for club and player, once they know they're parting, to suddenly say very positive things about each other. I compared it the other day to Kylian Mbappe when he was excluded from PSG's pre-season, a little bit like Isak choosing not to go to Newcastle's. And at that point, PSG and Kylian Mbappe were mudslinging. Then it all got smoothed over. And it was only really after Kylian Mbappe left on a free transfer for Real Madrid that suddenly it got ugly again. So we're going to get a lot of rewriting here. But the point is that Alexander Isak will not consider his position of never playing for Newcastle again unless Liverpool call him up and say a move this summer is impossible.
Another player that could depart Selhurst Park this summer is, of course, Eberechi Eze. Tottenham and Arsenal both in the race for his signature. Which club do you think is the more likely for him to move to?
Well, Tottenham are the ones that are really pushing at the moment, and I think they want to try and do a quick deal, not because of the Eze release clause, which expires in a few days, £60 million and 8 million in add-ons, but more because they know if they leave it longer and longer, there is a possibility that Arsenal also come in with a formal bid. At this stage, Arsenal are still debating because they don't want to stifle the progression and opportunities of Ethan Nwaneri at number 8. Eze can play number 8. That's the predominant position where Spurs and Arsenal think he's best, but he can filter out into a wide area. But Arsenal have obviously got Noni Madueke, who can play on the right or switch to the left. And on that left-hand side, they've still got Leandro Trossard and Gabriel Martinelli. So it feels like if Arsenal are going to bid for Eberechi Eze, and they would have player buy-in to do that, I'm told, they may need outgoings first. Eze likes the idea of Arsenal, but that doesn't mean he would reject Tottenham, because he might have to only pick between Tottenham or Crystal Palace, and Tottenham can get him a stay in London where he'd like to remain, and alternatively, compared to playing UEFA Conference League, he can have Champions League at Spurs as well. So I don't think it's as clear-cut as Eze wanting Arsenal over Spurs. I think he's open to both projects, but it's two different tactics. Tottenham are exploring this one and are prepared to move fast, and they would look to put down similar money to they paid for Mohamed Kudus, I'm told 55 or 60 million for Eze. Arsenal are still internally deliberating, but they've already got the player buy-in because Mikel Arteta has spoken directly to the player a few weeks ago, but now we need to see whether Arsenal are going to bid. So at the moment, Spurs are kind of ahead, but they will be cautious in case Arsenal choose to also start formal club-to-club talks.
There's been a lot of reports about Gianluigi Donnarumma at PSG moving to the Premier League. Chelsea have been linked, so have Manchester United. Manchester City is now a strong contender for his signature. Where do you think he could move to?
Yeah, Chelsea and Manchester United not in the race. That's our understanding on talkSPORT. So Chelsea are happy with Robert Sanchez. It would be very surprising if they change their mind. I know we can never say never with Chelsea because they did bid earlier in the window for Mike Maignan and didn't meet Milan's 25 million valuation. But the clear indication I'm getting from Chelsea sources is they're not in the race for Donnarumma and that Robert Sanchez will start the season as the number one. And I think if you look at his Club World Cup performance and also the last 6 games of the Premier League season, last campaign, it's warranted. Sanchez has definitely clicked and is in better form than in the first half of last season. Manchester United sources also downplay any talks or any interest in Donnarumma as well. And a similar story, Andre Onana's not been told he's going to be replaced. He is expecting to be fit and then be the number one. And at the moment, goalkeeper's less of a priority. On talkSPORT, we revealed Sene Laarmans, the Antwerp goalkeeper, was a young option as backup to Onana, but it was all based on the premise that Bayern would depart, and at the moment, he's also still at the football club. So Manchester United's focus is on finding a midfielder. We know they'd love to audaciously try for Carlos Baleba if they could, but it will all depend on Brighton. But it's all quiet on the goalkeepers front at Manchester United. So the real link within the Premier League is Man City. And it's fascinating because Man City like the idea of Donnarumma, but their first and starting position is actually that they want to keep Ederson. And Donnarumma will not join Man City if Ederson ends up staying. Galatasaray are interested. So there's a domino that needs to fall. Ederson to leave, then Man City would become the front runners for Donnarumma. But if Ederson stays, Donnarumma's going to have to start searching for other clubs that he doesn't yet have with time running out in the window. And the other complication in this is that PSG value Donnarumma with 1 year left on his contract at over £40 million. And that price would also have to drop. And you would think it would, because it's relatively tense at the moment between PSG and Donnarumma after he was excluded from the UEFA Super Cup squad against Tottenham Hotspur. So Donnarumma's one to watch. We don't have anything that concrete yet, but if it is to be a Premier League move, then assuming Ederson departs, Man City are the most concrete option.
And finally, Dominic CalvertLewin has been quietly waiting in the wings, it feels, this summer for his next club. He wanted to stay in the Premier League. Has he finally found his move?
He has an agreement in principle with Leeds United, first broken by the Athletic earlier today. But yesterday we ran an exclusive on talkSPORT, myself and chief football correspondent Alex Crook, where we said Leeds' top target is Rodrigo Muniz at Fulham. And if they can't get him, they'll move on to Dominic CalvertLewin. And 24 hours later, the agreement has been reached. At the time I'm recording this, Calvert-Lewin is doing all of the formalities and he will join Leeds United, barring anything unexpected. Sunderland made a bid and they offered Calvert-Lewin to be, as we understand it, their highest paid player. And Calvert-Lewin chose not to go to Sunderland and pick Leeds United instead. It's not impossible, if we get a late twist, that Leeds will also add another attacker. A lot of people asking me, is it Calvert-Lewin or Rodrigo Muniz? Or could it be both? I think two attackers could come in, but the point with Rodrigo Muniz is that Leeds have always been hopeful, but never really optimistic, because you've got Atlanta also in the race, and they're able to offer Rodrigo Muniz Champions League football. And you've got to meet Fulham's valuation. And Atlanta, who've got more money to spend at the moment because of Champions League football than Leeds United, haven't been able to strike a deal with Fulham. So Rodrigo Muniz could stay, he could go to Atlanta, but it appears anyway for now that Leeds have moved on from the Fulham striker, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin will be a new Leeds United player.